how to manage this thing. Why Uganda was hailed for managing Ebola is we first of all, when we got the first cases of Ebola here in 2001, our minister then was Dr. Chiyonga. We even didn't have a testing facility. We at UVRI in Entebbe, we couldn't do those things. We had to fly samples to South Africa for days to bring back. And now, before they declare you as Ebola positive, then the people that you've had contact with here have all gone. Results come back when you've already gone, because Ebola was, you get it now, then you're gone tomorrow. Then so there were those issues. Now that's when
we lost
exactly
our doctor.
Yes, that's how we lost Dr. Matthew Lukuya and several other persons or people. So when Magufuli tested for these non-human things, and they also tested positive. Now,
according to his results.
According to his results. That's when he said, no, we need to have a second thought. Because he actually now castigated the earlier figures, the 500 plus, by saying maybe there are quite a number of positives in there which would not have been positive. But you see, at that time, before Magufuli said we will not give any more results, 6 prominent pastors and bishops died in Tanzania. Mama Rwakatare was one of them. Mama Rwakatare was one of them. She was a very prominent pastor in Tanzania. She had about 17 schools. She had the radio station. A big entrepreneur. At about that time, I think 7 members of parliament and from the opposition had actually tested positive. They had actually lost prominent figures by that time. Amongst the first deaths of 29, those actually that are on record. So WHO continued demanding from Tanzania, telling them all the things, but Dr. Magufuli said no, will continue. Now remember, when Uganda goes into lockdown, Kenya was the first to actually go into this lockdown and instituting curfews and all the things. As opposed to Uganda, Kenya started by instituting curfew in Nairobi. You know, there's when yes, Nairobi, it was gradual. In Nairobi and in big cities where there was a lot of activity.
According to rates of infection.
Exactly, according to rates of infection. Uganda said no, it will be locked down from border to border, from Abim to Zombo, alphabetically. We'll start like that. So that's how went with us. Now, Tanzania decided to actually season their international flights on the 18th of April. Now, that time Uganda was actually into 2 weeks of lockdown. There were no planes coming in, there were no planes going out, except for cargo. So, of course, Tanzania now just realized there was no business in the region, on the continent, and of course internationally. So they only stayed with domestic flights for some time. But he decided that all the other things will continue operating. Churches will work and churches will carry on and do all the things.
Actually, Magufuli's approach to COVID was more of prayer and natural herbs.
Because yes, when his son recovered, he said publicly that yes, when the son tested positive, they went for herbs, but they also prayed to God. And that's how he actually talked to the clergy and said, let's have 3 days of praying and fasting. Friday for the Muslims across the country, Saturday for the SDAs, Sunday for all the other Christians. Let's pray and believe God. Even when he, in his last days and in his last addresses, and I think this was when they were burying their cabinet secretary, when he said magonjwa yapo, this sickness is here, but he also maintained that one day something will have to kill you. It might be COVID, it might be malaria, it might be an accident, it might be cancer or HIV/AIDS or TB or anything. So everything can kill anybody, any day or any time. So the focus shouldn't only be, you shouldn't only worry to die of COVID and you again expose yourself to any other thing. So he maintained. But above all, he said, because all these things are here to kill us, and they will kill us one day. So as we fight them, as we protect ourselves against them, as we do anything to keep healthy and alive, we do not have to move away from God. We need to stick to God, because he made a very good statement and said, look at us as Tanzania, or look at us as Africa, that as so many people have died world all over, God has still spared us up the same, even when we've lost a few people. Yet again, God has actually been faithful to us, because we've adhered in prayer, in fasting, and seeking God. So that was Dr. Magufuli.
Doctor, he was 100% right. Because if you remember, when we first heard of COVID, that was in Hubei, Wuhan, China. People were wondering that if it is killing the whites, developing nations are burying thousands, what will happen when it lands on the African continent? And I would treat those words that, yes, indeed the Lord has been faithful. Because COVID hasn't killed Africans. If you look at the leading countries in the world, you find USA, Brazil, India, United Kingdom. Worst hit countries. Africa not anywhere near to that. Maybe South Africa, yes, the new variant and all that, but by and large, the words of the late can be justified on that.
Exactly. God has been faithful to us and kept us up to this day. Because if you look at a country like Uganda, very complacent, we are a very careless majority, that 1 year later, 365 days later, we've recorded only 330 deaths.
334 deaths only.
334. So on average, you could say that one person per day. You know, one person per day. Yet there are countries where people were dying in thousands or on a single day, you know, with so many infections, so many deaths. And I remember the Prime Minister of Britain said, Boris Johnson, that if we can only lose, I think 20,000 people, that time, sometime last year, I think it was around April, May, and said, if we can only lose 20,000 people, then God shall have spared us from this pandemic. Now they had even computed 20,000 people to go in that thing, but the numbers have actually grown more than that. They got to a level where they were crying out to actually telling to stay at home to save the NHS, and not to even save their lives, but they were worried about redeeming and saving the National Health Services. You know, that by you not flooding, by you not getting infections and coming into the health services, you're actually saving and redeeming the NHS. So you'll notice that the countries that have virtually everything or anything, as you would say, have had a problem with COVID. So it gets back now to the people of Tanzania that yes, President Magufuli was declared to have died of a heart problem, but the first vice president, actually, who died on the 17th of February, the first vice president died on the 17th of February, 2021, and 1 month later, Dr. Magufuli dies on the 17th of March, 2021. Now, exactly 1 month later, the president dies. But Saif declared, or they declared that he died, it was public, that he died of COVID-19. And after that, the Tanganyika Law Society, the Catholic Church, and different stakeholders came on to actually push Dr. Magufuli. Because by the time Saif had actually died and publicly declared that he has died of COVID-19, the Law Society had released some statistics of the other prominent persons who had died. And at that time, they said they had lost 4 generals of the army. They had lost 4 generals. They had lost about 22 members, 22 senior lawyers of the law fraternity, of the Law Society. And there were these issues. And in their communication to President Magufuli, now the late, was that there is a problem, and we can't solve a problem by simply denying the problem. We need to face the problem. We need to know what the problem is, and we actually need to adopt recommended measures like all the other countries to actually fight this thing, because it is steadily killing us. And this was now from the Law Society. That was their demand to President Magufuli when it was publicly declared that the first vice president of Zanzibar had actually died of, yes, exactly, of COVID-19. And so subsequently, that's how the other persons kept dying, prominent people, cabinet ministers, the cabinet secretary, one of those prominent last persons to actually die before Dr. Magufuli. So there was that realization, yes, that there is a problem.
The enemy is around, the enemy
is actually within us, and we can't just deny. So they actually instituted and said they brought on board these SOPs that we've been doing, and on top of the SOPs that we know, washing hands, sanitization, doing all these things, they also now incorporated or added something which is called dieting and good feeding. And they said, as we do all these things, then learn how to eat well, and that's how they also brought on board steaming. You know, there are saunas as where people could just go in these streaming booths and do all the things, because yes, they accepted. So we just need to see how the next administration actually manages this pandemic, because yes, you can't deny the fact that there is no COVID in Tanzania. Even when the president did not die of COVID, you can't say there is no COVID in the country. So that's what we're actually looking to see how the next administration manages.
Well, Jack, and looking at time, it's not so much on our side, but we shall all live and die at a certain time T. I'll go, you go, and anybody else will die. But one of the most important things is what legacy do you leave behind? What do people learn of you? What lessons are there that Africa as a country, we've talked about great sons of Africa, that John Pombe Magufuli has left for the continent, leaders, and maybe also the ordinary man?
First and foremost, Dr. Magufuli is a symbol of Bisoboka, that things can be done. We think fighting corruption in this on the continent is hard.
You've termed it a cancer. It can't go in 1 minute.
No, but
it is
yes, but
magnified corruption.
Magufuli has actually showed us that it's possible to fight corruption when you have the will. Magufuli has also showed us the other lesson that we can learn from Dr. Magufuli is that you can develop nations, you can develop a country using the resources that you have, and without even borrowing externally. When Parliament was being sworn in 2016, I think around 19th of May in 2016, we did an interview with the minister now, Matia Kasaija. And he was actually the minister at that time. He had served a year after Maria Chiwanuka. And Matia Kasaija, in his statement, he's actually on record having said, there is a lot of money in Uganda. There is a lot of money in Uganda that can develop, revolutionize, change Uganda into that country that we want. Now, that time, we had 4 years working towards achieving the lower middle income status of 2020, because that was a dream, that was the aspiration of Uganda. And Matia Kasaija said there is a lot of money in this country. If only we can actually close the gaps where this money keeps falling out and you know, running away from us. So Magufuli has actually showed us that yes, when there is money in the country, you can close these gaps
and get your
keep the money in
right.
there, make your priorities right, and do them. When I asked Dr. Magufuli a question in Masaka for that at that press conference, yes, exactly. I was talking about land compensation because they were launching the pipeline. And if you notice, the pipeline from Kabale to Tanga is 1,445 kilometers. Of the 1,445 kilometers, Uganda has only about 300 kilometers on Ugandan soil. The pipeline only occupies Ugandan soil for only about 300 kilometers. Now that translates into about 20%, meaning the remaining 80%, the 1,000 plus kilometers, is on Tanzanian soil. So I asked President Magufuli a question that I know what the Ugandan law says, especially when you look at Ugandan law, the Article 26 of our Constitution, yes, that talks about right to property and compensation and all the things. And I said, don't you think that because you have a different law, in Tanzania, you don't have this ownership of ours. The land tenures that we have in Uganda, you have the Mairo, you have all these, you have all that, you have the leasehold, you have quite a number of, you don't have them in Tanzania. And I knew that if Tanzania wants to do anything, Tanzania just comes and says, Chirabo, Jagenda, Ruatoro, Nasa, and all this. You have all these, they relocate you, they take you somewhere else, Babazimbi Dobuyumba, maybe Tanu, place you there, then government is going to use this land. And whereas to us here, we have people who, because we have insider traders, somebody tells you that, yes, today in cabinet we discussed this. And so Chirabo runs and buys a plot of land in Kabale, a square meter, a square mile, or whatever that is. So when I asked Dr. Magufuli this question, Dr. Magufuli said to us, first of all, the road reserve, the law for road reserve is actually very easy. To them, the road reserve gives them about 25 meters from the center of the road, which is not the case with Uganda. So when they just come and find you, exactly, Ugandans have built houses, you stay on Entebbe Road. Ugandans have built houses, and this is the veranda of their house, but then the UNRWA, the UNRWA mark is actually behind the house. And so this entire house is actually in UNRWA's road reserve. But this is Uganda. And somebody does that well knowing that the UNRWA mark is actually here. Then they build their house here, and the UNRWA mark is actually behind their house. So when UNRWA comes to say twagala okujjayo enguudo zino, then it will be very costly for government to actually pay Kirabo, who built in the road reserve. Now in Tanzania, this is what Dr. Magufuli has actually explained. I said, no, to us the laws are very clear. If you risk to build in a road reserve, then you lose your property immediately. We actually ask you, we just order you to erase it and take it away at your cost and at your everything.
A law is the law.
And you don't have
not this issue of Uganda willing buyer, willing seller.
Now in Uganda, you build in a road reserve, and when government comes to say, move away from the road reserve, then you come to radio, you come to TV. President Jango Tuyambe, then it becomes politics, you become NRM, you become NUP, you become FDC, you become all these funny things at the cost and at the expense of development. It wasn't in
That's why we've even seen some road designs being changed.
Exactly.
Because of issues of compensation.
We have those variations.
You know,
now, if
a road design is changed.
Exactly.
Because I want
if you plan the road and say it is going to go this much or this way,
and take this period of time.
Exactly. You read the Bamgemene report, if you did. The 2015 Bamgemene report on UNRWA. It tells you when we are building Entebbe Expressway, there is this Munyonyo Spa from Kajansi to Munyonyo. Now, a minister then gazettes a month earlier that this is now a road corridor. It is now the property of the government of Uganda. Then the same minister acquires the land title in that same road reserve, and the minister's daughter and the minister's son, then the other day, all of them are compensated 8 billion shillings. Now, which kind of country is this? You get the point.
And after that, we don't see
exactly. Now,
such people.
No, that's what Matia Kaseja says. There is a lot of money. Now, if 8 billion that is compensated to Chirabo and Jagen and Ratoro was not compensated to them, then this money would actually have done some other thing. So we lose a lot of money in these things. And you see, people tend to think compensation is very expensive in this country. No, it's not expensive. We think compensation is expensive because we steal.
But also, Jagen, on that, we've tried to push for some bills. If you remember 2 years ago, Dr. Chris Baryomus was all over the media under a compulsory land acquisition bill. Maybe but you see,
that's what is with Magufuli. That is what is in Magufuli's Tanzania.
The challenge you still have is a jargon, I would say.
The people who want Magufulification of Uganda, then you need to allow for that. That if you want a Magufulification of Uganda, then you don't have to discuss compensation. Compulsory, because you see, we've had a project that is supposed to work for 18 months, and our projects become expensive because of those variations. Now, people have talked about the Entebbe Expressway, comparing it to Thika Road in Kenya, and all.
Why 1 kilometer here is more expensive than in Rwanda and any other neighboring countries?
What makes it expensive is a Chirabo who has moved from his home to UBC. He has come through different roads and through people's property. Now Chirabo says, but Chirabo has come to UBC and he did not fly to just get to UBC. He has also passed where Ruatoro gave and where Jagenda gave.
The land value is maybe 100 million.
Exactly.
Chirabo says demand and supply. I want 1 billion shillings.
No, I think it's not actually a Chirabo problem. It is not normally a Chirabo problem. If they know that this is Chirabo's land and the compensation is 100 million, then a thief Jagenda in the system will actually say this should be 1 billion. And the problems are, Chirabo is supposed to sign for 1 billion, but Chirabo knows he's only taking 10% of that. And that's where the problems come. So Chirabo says, but how come? I am going to sign for all this 1,000 billion, rather 1,000 million, but I'm only taking 100 million. So the 900 million is going to stay somewhere. And these are the problems that we've actually been getting. So these are the challenges, and that's the legacy for Dr. Magufuli. Magufuli tells you, just get all that money, keep it somewhere, then put a road here, put an airport there, put all these things there.
And I want that to be done, and it's possible. Lessons, Magufuli, may your soul rest in eternal peace. There's so much we can talk about Magufuli, but we can crown it all with the words of Professor Lumumba, where he says we need Magufulification of Africa. May his soul...
We want to promise the people that our Pan-African Friday will honor the man and will bid fare thee well to President Magufuli. So we hope to be here as we will be part of the sending off ceremony.
We'll all live and we'll die, but what legacy have you left behind? Magufuli, Magnification of Africa. What is your legacy? Now I'm speaking to those in leadership. What will be your legacy when you finally leave planet Earth? Will we talk about you as an icon, as a hero, as a person who set standards? Magufuli was very clear. It is possible where there is a will, there is a way. Have a blessed day. Tomorrow we shall be at Parliament. That is Good Morning Uganda, as we celebrate 100 years of Parliament. Lovely day. God bless you. Keep it on UBC TV.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
This is Auntie Jovita, your friend, your mother, your mentor, and someone who wishes you well. And here I am today. I am talking about a very sensitive issue. This is teenage pregnancy. Avoid it, it's bad. And you can avoid it in the following ways. Avoid watching bad movies. Avoid being in secluded places alone. Avoid moving out at night.